Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. It is Shelby here today, flying with you solo. And I am going to attempt to bring a very nuanced topic to all of you by myself. I tend to prefer to do these with Laura because if I get lost, as I sometimes do, she's there to help bounce me back onto the plot. But I'm feeling pretty passionate about this topic today. This is something that came up in my own work yesterday with my own coach. And it was like a pretty big light bulb moment for me. And my style is Shelby has a light bulb moment, and then Shelby talks about the light bulb moment, and then maybe you have a light bulb moment, or it's something that you tuck in your pocket for a future light bulb moment. And that is this, dynamic of truth versus facts. And if you would have asked me this question yesterday of Shelby, are truth and facts the same? Before my coaching call yesterday, I would have said yes, 100%. Facts are truth and truths are facts. They're interchangeable. And I guess I've never really thought about it before. I've never really been challenged here. And even saying that out loud now, I'm like, well, that's not inherently true, but I think that this can show up in our coaching. This can show up in our personal growth. This shows up in our subconscious work. And I wanted to bring it all to you today. So before I jump into the story, I want to start with like some basic definitions to give everybody context, right? So what are facts? Facts are objective reality. You and I can both agree that like the sun is shining today, or it is raining, or that we had salad for lunch or lobster for dinner last night. They are objective facts that everyone in the room can agree on the exact same thing. They are measurable, they're observable, they're verifiable, okay? Also, other things non-related to food. I'm a Taurus, can you tell? Scientific data, historical events, empirical evidence, all examples of facts. What are truths? So truths are subjective interpretations of facts. They are personal. They're often tied to our belief systems, our values, and our perceptions. So my truth may not be your truth, and your truth may not be my truth, even if we're looking at the same fact. I don't like lobster. You might love lobster. Our truths are both valid, but different. So these are greatly influenced by our own personal choices, beliefs, preferences, cultural and societal truths, spiritual truths, religious truths. They have a lot of facets that play into them, very nuanced. And I want to share a little bit of a story here with you. And this is still pretty fresh for me. And I usually don't prefer to share things when they are this fresh, but it's kind of hard to convey the point here without kind of getting into it. So yesterday I was on a call with my coach and I'm having a trigger. I am experiencing a trigger with a family member of mine right now, and it is repetitive. It is once a month and it gets me every time. I'm in the same spiral of anger, of disappointment, of letdown. And this is like the third or fourth time it's happened this summer. And I have finally to the point of like, okay, what is it? So I bring the situation to my coach. And I'm a big believer in I'm going to feel all of my feelings. I feel very deeply. I feel very viscerally. I feel your feelings on your behalf. I feel your discomfort. And I don't want to bypass the feeling. That's not the goal, but I'm very curious of like, okay, I must have a belief here that is being validated or being challenged, and I'm unaware of it. And I want to be challenged here. I want to pull on this thread. Can somebody hold space for me? Because I can't figure it out on my own. And so I explained to my coach the situation. And the long story short is I'm going to be needing a procedure at the end of this month. It's very minor, but I need somebody to watch my kids. And I asked somebody to watch my kids, and they just flat out told me no. And this is a repetitive cycle that I experience with this particular person. And I felt really let down and really hurt. And it compounds this limiting belief I have about myself that I'm not worthy, and that I'm not worthy of being taken care of, that I'm not worthy of this person's attention and love. And there are so many other ways that this person shows me attention and love, but like this particular thing is just hot and raw for me. And so I tell my coach the story, all the details, and he asked, okay, I hear you. What do you want from me today? And I was like, I want to know if I am being the victim in the victim triangle somehow. Am I contributing to this dynamic? Am I missing something? Am I blind? Am I blind to something? Can I not see it? And so, I mean, this took us an hour, right? This was not an aha instant insight for me, but he was challenging me and he was saying, like these are facts. The facts are this person told you no. This person caused you to have big feelings, hard feelings to feel. This person in the past has also told you no around similar circumstances. But is that your truth? Are these facts that seem to be gathering evidence that you are not worthy? Are they your truth? Are you not? Are you not worthy? And I sat with that for a minute, and instantly the truth that comes up is like, of course I'm worthy. Of course, right? But I have a kink in my circuit breaker here to where I'm looking for proof that I am not, and I'm finding it. And it's really hard to challenge these beliefs when you are gathering evidence, when you are gathering facts that they are truth, right? And I think what he did next was really beautiful for me in the sense of not bypassing or downplaying these facts because they still happened. There's no denying. I was told this on the phone by this particular person, and we can both agree to that. But the careful distinction of, yes, these are facts. This did happen, validating my experience, and then also challenging, like, is this your truth? Is this the source? Is this the fuel that you are going to pull from to validate who you are and that you are worthy and that you are loved and you are cared for? Is this it? And to be honest, in that moment, my ego was pretty pissed of like, yeah, of course, this person shows up for everybody else. I have all these stories, right? They show up for everybody else. It's just me. I'm being picked on, all the things, right? And those things aren't even wrong. I can find proof for them. I can find facts for them, but is it helpful to me? Is it helpful? And I've been chewing on that. And I mean, intellectually, no, it's not helpful. I'm still sitting and wrestling with the inner turbulence that comes with that. The work there is not done, but I think it's a beautiful example of one wanting to take radical ownership over my experience here. And I could sense that I was in the victim chair somehow, some way, and I didn't know how to get out. And I've done enough personal development at this point to when I'm experiencing a similar situation over and over and over again, it's usually the universe, it's usually God, it's usually someone trying to get my attention to be like, hey, I'm looking for you. Are you looking here? Right here. This is the problem. Look, right here. So with that in mind, how do we take this example and bring it in to our coaching practice, right? I think that it is important to notice how facts and truths play with your client, right? And this is usually something that with more experience, the longer that you spend with somebody, you'll be able to track and trend. This would be a pretty hot take to lead with somebody on an initial call when you don't know a lot about them. So this challenging technique, I would recommend maybe saving when you've gathered your own facts about working with a client. My coach, I've been working with him for like 2 years. So we have a lot of rapport. I have a lot of trust in him. I trust that he's challenging me from an ethical place whenever I ask him to do that. But we get to assess this like role of how our client is interpreting the world around them, right? How they interpret facts into their truth, and being able to see in different circumstances over time how they do that can be really helpful. Like, I know that they talk about this in like true crime cases a lot, how people will remember the witness differently, or not remember the witness, but remember the perpetrator differently, right? It'll be two people in the same coffee shop that's getting robbed, and they will have completely different interpretations of who that person was who's robbing the coffee shop. It's like us as humans. It's how our brains work. Not inherently wrong or incorrect, just really cool to be aware of. So I think that this can also be important too, of whenever we start to be able to track our clients' stories that they are telling themselves, right? For me, I have this, I'm not really sure where it was born from yet, but I have this belief. I intellectually know that I am worthy. I have all this proof that I am worthy. And yet my brain still scans for these instances of like, oh, see, told you, you're not worthy. Oh, here's another one. You're still not worthy. Did you forget? Did you think that you were? Here's another example on how you're not. And our brain is thinking an enormous amount of thoughts a day, and if we don't spend time to calibrate our lens here, most of them are negative. 85% of our thoughts are negative. So if we're walking around with a negative bias all of the time, and no one is here to like challenge it or question it or reflect it back to us, you can see how it's so easy for our clients, just to walk around with a doom and gloom attitude. We've been programmed to think that way. So having a coach be able to challenge you and be like, is that your truth? Or is that just the facts of what's happening? How are we interpreting this situation? One of my favorite questions from deep coaching that I learned with Leon Vanderpaul is, okay, yes, this is the situation. These are the facts. And a really beautiful question to ask here is, what is trying to happen here? What is trying to happen for you, through you? It allows a little bit of space between your client and the problem, takes them out of the drama of it all, and kind of like flips on our assessment mind. I do think it's really important to like feel and validate, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. So I don't want to use this as a tool to bypass people's experience, because that's also a way for your client to shut down. But when the time is right to challenge, when you have sought permission to challenge, lean in, ask, can I challenge your perspective on that? Or can I share with you what I am seeing? And holding a lot of space for your client to see it differently. All right, team. So there is whenever I listen to podcasts like this, I'm like, cool, that sounds great, but like, how do I do this in real time, right? So that question is a easy question to keep in your back pocket of like, how's this happening for me right now? Or how's this happening for your client, for me? It allows us to switch out our lenses a little bit to see the situation, to see the facts differently. There's also another model that we've mentioned a few times here on the podcast called the thought work model, or the model. It's by Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School. You can Google it and find like 100 resources on it. But I want to mention that because it's an easy framework, one, for you to learn, two, for you to walk your clients through, and three, to leave your clients with as a tool that they can carry on forever outside of your sessions. And I won't dive too deeply into that here because I think it's helpful whenever you have the paper in front of you, but Google the thought model, watch the short YouTube videos about it. It's very tangible to understand, and do it. Do it first for yourself, walk yourself through it, and let me know what you think. I know I'm kind of like leaving you on the edge there, but if you want homework, there is some. Okay, last thing here that I want to make sure that I make very, very clear is whenever we are exploring truths, whenever we are exploring people's interpretations of facts, that it is really important, and I've said it already, but it's really, really important to validate people's experiences, to not argue with them, to not like go in it like bullheaded of challenge, because sometimes people aren't ready, totally fine. But we all know what it's like to be bypassed, or whenever someone is just like surface level listening to us and goes into fix it mode. So whenever someone is sharing their experience with you and it's raw and it's vulnerable, like I was in tears on this call yesterday with my coach, he didn't rush me through that. He didn't, in the middle of my tears, start to challenge me in this moment. He didn't say, oh, that's just shadow work. That's just your subconscious, right? And like downplay it. I think it is so important to be like, yeah, I hear you. This is painful. This sucks. Like validating their experience and then kind of like letting it land and then asking, can I share my perspective here? Or do you want to look at this differently? What if there's another option we haven't explored yet? Asking those open-ended questions to switch out our lens can be really helpful, but I really want to encourage you guys not to bypass your client's experience, because again, I've had coaches do this to me and it is just like an easy way to shut down. An example I have of this actually is I hired a speech coach 3 years ago to help me write and deliver a speech that I was giving at a conference. And I never done that before and I wanted some help. She's a coach for TED Talk performers, does this full time, came recommended to me. And I liked her. She was older, like my grandma's age, and she was spicy and she was rough around the edges. She gave very direct feedback and I was open to that because I just wanted to hear it, right? I didn't need a traditional coaching container where we talk about my feelings the whole time. I just really needed to get good at this skill of delivering the speech. And I have a long history of speech anxiety. I was a swim team captain in high school and froze many a time on stage at pep rallies where my friends would have to step in and give the speeches instead, to like come to our swim meet. Like I would just totally shut down. I've done that literally more times than I can count. So the fact that I'm able to do it now is a huge win. And I was talking through part of my speech and I admittedly was being very flat in my delivery. And she goes, Shelby, can you smile? I was like, no, not today. I can't. And she goes, why not? And I was like, I don't know. I just can't smile. Do I have to? Like I was being kind of like snarky. My inner teenager came out. And instead of like seeking permission and challenging me from that place, she immediately went to mocking me of like, oh, you can't smile? That must be so hard. Why can't you smile? Just smile for me. And any millennial that grew up in the South, I bet your skin is crawling right now because every old man in my life has said that to me. And it makes me want to punch a wall. Like, even remembering it makes me so angry right now. And it was the wrong move. It was the wrong move in the moment. And I stopped her. I was like, I'm going to need you to stop and never talk to me like that ever again. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. And I was like, that technique does not work for me. I will shut down immediately. She's like, totally understand. I got it. And we were able to move on and eventually clear the error later. But that is a very visceral, visceral example of like, don't do that to your clients. Seek permission, go slow, validate their experience, be curious, challenge if appropriate. Okay. So we'll wrap up here. How do we begin this work? How do we begin doing this work with our clients? Of course, the work begins with you, my friend. So I encourage you to sit with your beliefs, to be able to identify them, sit with your values. If you can't tell me what your top 3 values are, go do a values exercise. Go Google values exercise and go do it right now. It'll take you 15 minutes, but your beliefs, your value system, your religious systems, your spiritual systems all influence your truths. And I think that having truths is very beautiful and like how wonderful it is to be clear on what our truth is. But if we aren't aware of it, it can influence our coaching as well. So awareness is key. Sitting down, being able to know what those are and how they may influence your coaching is really key. And also how they influence your interpretation of facts, right? So really, I'll leave you guys on this last example because it's coming to mind. Whenever we interpret facts, say of like someone ghosts you on a connection message or someone no-shows on an application call, you have options on how you interpret that. A lot of times people will get a no-show, they'll get ghosted, and they're like, see, I knew this wasn't going to work. I knew this wasn't going to work. I have proof. I knew it wasn't going to work. Or, see, I knew I wasn't a good coach. I have nothing to offer this person, and now I have proof because they won't even show up to a free call. Or what's another one that we think a lot? No one values my time. No one even showed up. No one valued my time. Why am I doing this? I'd rather be hiking or at the beach versus like, all right, they no-showed. Next. You have options there. There's choices there. Got to slow down to be able to pick up on the nuance here and what we're feeding our brain. And whenever I had someone no-show me on an application call yesterday, and I was like, guess they're not ready. And I moved on to the next thing. It wasn't always like that, but it was like that yesterday. All right, team. What did you think about this episode? I hope it made sense. If you need clarity, please let me know. And we will see you in the Facebook group, The Successful Nurse Coaches. And yeah, see you on the flip side. Bye, everybody.